What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. So this is a late stream, later than what I normally stream, but we're going to stream for about close to an hour, unless it gets good. We're going to talk the NFL. We're going to talk waiver wire pickups. For those of you guys who are going to be watching the show later, feel free to come back and watch the replay. All right, let's go ahead and kick things off with QBs. Tons of injuries, tons of bye weeks. So on bye week this week, you have Caleb Williams, you have Jordan Love, you have Michael Penix, and you have Aaron Rodgers. Give me 1 second, fellas. Give me 1 second. All right, so you got quarterbacks that got injured. You have Lamar Jackson dealing with hamstring. He should be potentially out this week. Then you have Brock Purdy dealing with toe. He plays on Thursday. So you don't know what happens with that. Then, of course, you have Jaden Daniels dealing with the knee. Jaden Daniels is optimistic of playing in week 5 versus the Chargers. You got Joe Burrow being out pretty much for the season. And then you have JJ McCarthy still dealing with the ankle injury. What's good, timeout? Appreciate you hopping on. Let's see. So if Tua's available in your redraft league, snag him. I understand that he only has 5 touchdowns and 4 INTs so far this season, but hey, with everything being said and everything being done, he's going to be out there in redraft leagues. It's somebody that you can snag. Also, Marcus Mariota, just in case Jaden Daniels is not quite ready, both in Superflex leagues and in redraft as well. Also, Jackson Dart, he played well last week. He had close to 16, 17 points, depending on what your scoring format is. Jackson Dart could be a nice find playing against the lowly New Orleans. Even at New Orleans, he could potentially put up some points for you, especially with the legs. Sorry if y'all hear kids in the background. My kids are here, and I told them to keep it down. Excuse me, guys. All right, moving on along, you have Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold playing against Tampa Bay could be a potential shootout. Sam has been pretty good this year. 905 passing, 5 touchdowns, 2 INTs, averaging about 16 points per game based on format. Sadly, Bryce Young could be a pickup. I don't trust him. I don't really like him this season, but he does have the ability to run the ball. Carson Wentz was more than serviceable last week, where he put up over 350 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Although he had 2 INTs, he did have 2 touchdowns. So with all the injuries, I know he's playing against Cleveland. He could be a guy that could potentially help your team in Superflex leagues. Michael Penix is another one. You have Mac Jones just in case Brock Purdy is not ready. So keep all of those in mind. All right, moving on along, you have Cooper Rush, because if Lamar Jackson is out in Superflex leagues, Cooper Rush could be decent. And I'm going to talk about a tight end that Cooper Rush could have a good connection with. Then, of course, you have Dylan Gabriel. He's slated to be the starting QB for the Browns. I'm not sure if the news has been announced, but it's headed that way. They're sick and tired of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow continues to struggle. He's not mobile. I believe the Cleveland Browns need a mobile QB. They're going to go to Dylan Gabriel. I think he's going to play well. At some point, you're going to see Shador towards the end of the season when the record is not matching what they want. Browns are just in a horrible QB situation. Joe gave them all he had, and now it's Dylan Gabriel's turn. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on along, running backs. Tons of running backs on bye week. You have Bijan Robinson. You have Tyler Algier. You have Josh Jacobs. Emmanuel Wilson is handcuffed. You have DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monangai. You have Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, who played ball last week. Quick story time. So in the morning, I heard that what's his name was going to be out, right? Warren. So I quickly went and picked up Kenneth Gainwell, and I put him into about 6 or 7 of my fantasy leagues. I said, let me have some rooting interest, to have some interest in watching this game. And because I did that, he went off. He went crazy. And Kenneth Gainwell put up 30-plus points in my leagues and won me a lot of leagues this week. Folks was looking at me like I was Houdini. I said, no, I just needed rooting interest. So sometimes it's good to get lucky. Sometimes it's good to have players filling in, because you never know if that player can go from RB24 status to a RB1. So Kenneth Gainwell was definitely a RB1 this past week. So that was fun. We have injuries to Jaylen Warren. He has a knee. You have Bucky Irvin, ankle. Braylon Allen, knee last night. That was rough. Matter of fact, the 2 Monday night games were rough to watch. I'm not going to lie. Aaron Jones, hamstring. Tyrone Tracy's shoulder. Joe Mixon's foot still out. Tajee Spears, ankle. Miles Sanders, ankle. But then also, based off of how the running backs are, you're going to have to start to look around and kind of see who could potentially help you. If Bucky Irvin is indeed hurt, you want to look for a guy like Rachaad White. You want to look for Kareem Hunt. You want to look for Brian Robinson. I don't know when CMC is going to go down, if he goes down. So these are some of the guys that you should start looking around for, because you never know what happens with these running backs. Top priority is Woody Marks. Woody Marks went plumb crazy. 17 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown, 4 catches for 50 yards and an additional touchdown on 5 targets. So Woody Marks looked great. He looked amazing. He looks like he could potentially steal that RB1 job from Nick Chubb. So look out for Woody Marks. He should be the most targeted waiver wire ad this week. Doesn't mean he's going to duplicate that production, but definitely means that he can end up being the RB1 for this team. And if he continues at this pace, he's going to be able to possibly be that RB1 for the Texans the rest of the way. Sean Tucker is another one. As you're picking up Rachaad White, pick up Sean Tucker. Anytime that Bucky Irvin has missed time, Sean Tucker has been productive. So, yeah, Sean Tucker and Rachaad White should be targeted. Of course, Kenneth Gainwell. If nobody picked him up from your waiver wire, he should be looked at. And then you want to look at a guy like Justice Hill. I know he just had a crazy game last week where he had 3 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. And then he had 5 catches for 41 yards and another touchdown on 6 catches. I get all that. But what I'm saying is he could be a potential nice RB. He could be a potential nice RB in an instance of where you need a running back to help you catch the ball coming back. All right. Moving on along, you have Tajee Spears. He's coming back. He's due to come back. He's eligible to come back. He could work in tandem with Tony Pollard. I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be, but he's going to be a running back that's available that could potentially have some upside. Christian Rodriguez. He seems to be that thorn in Bill's side. Washington's backfield is a mess, but it's still Ja'Cory Cross-Demerit is the favorite for me, but definitely grabbing some Christian Rodriguez just in case Bill is ever to go down. Kendre Miller had probably his best game in a while. He could potentially be the guy if they trade Alvin Kamara. So you want to hop on the Kendre Miller train now before it's too late. He had a decent game this past week, so you want to go ahead and grab him and stash him if you can. Xavier Scott. I talked this guy up the last waiver wire show. With Jordan Mason getting the bulk of the work, Xavier Scott is a former wide receiver. He's going to be the guy that's going to be getting a lot of the passing work. So he's a guy to consider, especially in a negative game script for Minnesota moving forward. I think they should have the lead versus Cleveland this week, but Rico Dowdle, pick him up because Chuba Hubbard has been banged up. Imari DeMarcado, I can never say his name. He seems to be the better, more elusive back over a Trey Benson. Trey Benson looked horrible. Trey Benson, he got targets, got catches, but it was like 3 yards. Like my boy Time Out Sports says, that Trey Benson is the 3-yard per reception king. Grab DeMarcado just because the Cardinals could be in some negative type game script. I think they should win this week versus the Titans, but DeMarcado should be able to get some work this week alongside Benson. Blake Corum, this guy gets more and more snaps. This is a guy for you to stash because eventually you're going to get that 50-50 with Blake Corum and Kyron. And I don't know how that's going to go, but each and every week he continues to get more and more snaps, more and more snaps, more and more carries. So just keep that in mind. Rashard Smith, that whole Kansas City offense is a mess. You got Kareem Hunt, you got Pacheco, you got all these different guys. Stash Rashard Smith in deep leagues. If you have a deep league, stash him. Who knows? He might end up as the premier back for the Kansas City Chiefs as the season goes on. If you guys are joining, please like, please subscribe, please share. We have Emmanuel Wilson. He's a good stash in that offense. Josh Jacobs gets a lot of work. If he ever goes down, Emmanuel Wilson could be something for you. Jaden Blue is close to coming back, so he's a player that people are targeting like in Dynasty and in redraft leagues. If you're not in a deep league, I would leave Jaden Blue alone. With Braylon Allen going down last night, Isaiah Davis is a guy who could potentially come in and get some work from Breece Hall. We see that the Jets love to use multiple backs, right? So Isaiah Davis is next up. Outside of being an outstanding special teams guy, he could be a guy that can come in and get some of those third down work for you. So definitely grab you some Isaiah Davis if you can. Let's go ahead and get into wide receivers. We have these wide receivers that have been on bye week this week. You have Drake London, you have Darnell Mooney, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, Romeo Dobbs, who went plumb crazy this past week, Dontavian Wicks. You have DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin. Bye weeks. This bye week is not as bad, but the next up and coming bye weeks are going to be crazy. You have these guys that have gone that have some serious injuries, like Malik Neighbors went down with ACL. Tyreek Hill went down last night with a knee injury. Ricky Pearsall dealing with injury, with his knee injury. Juwan Jennings, Darnell Mooney, Cedric Tillman, hamstring. CeeDee Lamb, we don't know when he's coming back. Mike Evans still dealing with injury. Terry McLaurin, he may be back this week, but I don't know. Jaden Reed pretty much being out for the season. Brandon Ayuk yet to make his debut. Jalen Coker with his quads, and Xavier Leggett. Alec Pierce still under concussion protocol. It should maybe potentially be free. Christian Watson due to make his debut, and Jalen McMillan. All these different guys, right? So luckily, in the NFL, 3 receivers do start. So you should be able to find some kind of wide receiver out there to kind of help your team. Darius Slayton is one that I think should be a top pickup this week. Not because he's good. He's been on the Giants for, 8 years? But what he does give you is targets. If he's available to get you some targets, he's a guy that could potentially get you some work this week. So Darius Slayton could be the number 2, could be the number 1 wide receiver based off of how you view Wan'Dale Robinson. Romeo Dobbs should be a top priority. He seems to be the guy that Jordan Love trusts when he's in the red zone. This guy gets tons of targets in the red zone, so he could be a potential for you, but I don't see him doing what he did last week with the 3 touchdowns. I mean, 6 catches for 58 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not every day. But that is 8 targets, and that is targets in the red zone. So that's always great. Jalen Coker, he's close to coming off of the IR. He could be a guy that could come in and help that depleted wide receiver room for the Panthers. Moving along, of course, Alec Ironman, I've talked this guy up just about every week. If he's out there, go scoop him. Malik Washington with Tyreek Hill going down. This could be a guy that can come in and give you some of those things that Tyreek likes to do. He's shifty. He's a playmaker. He just hasn't gotten the opportunity in the NFL. Marvin Mims, some weeks you love him, some weeks you hate him. He had a good performance this past week, 6 catches or 6 targets for 69 yards. So, and a touchdown. So he could be somebody who produces moving forward, but it's just kind of hard to judge between Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin. So temper your expectations. A guy that I am excited about is Isaiah Bond. I hate when people get hurt like Cedric Tillman, but with Cedric Tillman missing 4 weeks because he just went on IR, Isaiah Bond could be a guy that could be something. And again, he might not be nothing, but if Dylan Gabriel is coming in to become the starting QB, I guarantee you that Dylan Gabriel and Isaiah Bond have gotten some kind of reps together in practice, being that they're backups, right? Luke McCaffrey continues to take strides. He has 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. With Terry McLaurin being out, this guy has stepped up and has been one of the productive receivers for the Commanders. Now, granted, he only has 7 targets for the year and 6 catches, but out of those 6 catches, 2 are touchdowns. So if you are in a pinch like I was last week, I was able to stick Luke McCaffrey into my lineup, and it did bode well for me. Demarcus Robinson could be a good play this week, especially if all of these wide receivers that they have are out, Jennings and Pearsall. It's like the San Francisco 49ers. They are a hospital. They're a hospital. They're a rehab center. Their players are always getting hurt. Moving on to tight ends, you have Kyle Pitts, Tucker Kraft, Jonnu Smith, Colston Loveland, and Cole Kmet. These are guys that are out on bye week. Speaking of Colston Loveland. He's been dealing with injuries. He hasn't had all the hype that we all thought he was going to have. George Kittle is still out with injury. Jatavian Sanders is out with injury. But I'm going to talk to you guys about a tight end on the Panthers that could be a steal this week. Obviously, Darren Waller showed up, finally played his first game, had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 27 yards, and 2 scores. He should be the top tight end available in your league, so definitely go ahead and put in a claim for him and grab him. He should be able to help your team, especially with a team where you just lost Tyreek Hill. So he should be a big target in the red zone. So this could be they're playing Carolina. They're playing Carolina next week. So Darren Waller might be a must start. He might be a must start, possibly the rest of the season, being that the Dolphins are lacking receiving talent. And not only that, big receivers. So here's one big one right here in Darren Waller. Brenton Strange, if he's available in your leagues, snag him. Mason Taylor, why not? He had a decent showing this past week. 5 catches, 65 yards, and it would have been nice if he got a score, but he didn't. He seems to be the number 2 target after Garrett Wilson, so that's a good pickup right there. Tommy Tremble from the Panthers. That's the tight end I was telling you guys about. Tommy Tremble has a chance to be very, very productive this season. So snag him. It seems like Bryce Young likes to hit these receivers that are tall. They have a lot of tall targets. Tommy Tremble at 6'4", Ted McMillan at 6'4", and they have all these different guys that are just bigger receivers. Jalen Coker coming back. So definitely Tommy Tremble is a good streaming option this week versus Miami, who doesn't really have a great defense as well. Dalton Schultz should be available with all the injuries with Baltimore. They're just decimated with injuries. Who knows? Dalton Schultz could be a good streaming option this week. Theo Johnson as well seems to be building something special with Jackson Dart. So look out for that as the season progresses. Jake Tongs, with George Kittle being out, this guy has been nothing but productive each and every week. And this past week, he had a big game where he caught 3 catches, 58 yards, and a score. Might be his best game of the season. So definitely somebody that you can grab and stream. Let's talk about some defenses for a second. Anybody that the Titans are playing are the defense for me each and every week. You have the Cardinals. The Cardinals should be rostered this week. You should put a claim for the Cardinals. I think that the Titans are terrible, and the Cardinals should be able to put pressure on Cam Ward and create some turnovers. You have the Rams versus San Francisco. With all the injuries they have, it makes the Rams a very attractive streaming option. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs versus the Jags. The Jags get a lot of takeaways. They're leading the NFL in takeaways. I will start taking the Jags DST very seriously. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. With Trevor Lawrence not playing so well, who knows? They might be able to generate some turnovers of their own. The Browns versus Minnesota. As long as you have a Carson Wentz out there, there's a chance that he's going to turn over the ball. And if he does, you might get lucky, get a pick 6 or a fumble or whatever. But not just Carson Wentz going against the Browns. You also have the Browns going against Minnesota with Dylan Gabriel. So it goes both ways. Anytime you have these young rookie QBs, I tend to start the defenses versus these young QBs. So sometimes they tend to make mistakes. The Giants versus New Orleans, but then also New Orleans versus the young Jackson Darts. I like it both ways. New Orleans has been they've been bad. They've been terrible. And when it comes to kickers, pick whatever kicker you guys want. I don't care about kickers, but let's go ahead and get into the NFL show. That concludes our waiver wire portion of the show. We're going to talk about the NFL and what went right this week, what went wrong, what surprises. Speaking of the NFL, there are some people that are leading in the stats that you would not even believe. So Dak Prescott is leading the league in passing, followed by Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert, and Jordan Love. it's been a year for quarterbacks to pass, but it's like the numbers haven't ramped up yet. You're going to get to a point in the season where the passing game just gets going. But the running game, the running game has looked good. Blast from the pass. Jonathan Taylor and ETN from that powerful draft. Jonathan Taylor is leading the league in rushing, followed by James Cook. Then it's Travis Etienne at 3, J.K. Dobbins at 4, and Bijan Robinson at 5. What Bijan Robinson brings to the table is more than just running the ball. He is an exceptional receiver out of the backfield. You have Puka Nacua, Puka. Let's just say Puka. Puka Nacua. I used to be able to say his last name, but I don't even know anymore. He has 503 yards receiving in just 4 games. This guy is on pace for 2,000 yards this season. Do you guys think Puka gets to 2,000 yards this season? I think he's going to be special this season. And he finally scored a touchdown. When he scores a touchdown, his numbers are going to start to go crazy. You have Jackson Smith-Njigba at the number 2 at 402 yards receiving, followed by Quentin Johnston having a heck of a season. This guy has looked great this season. Then you have Ricky Pearsall at number 4. I believe he has 200-yard games so far this season. And you have Justin Jefferson at 5. After this week, this whole list is going to be different. I have a feeling that there's going to be some guys with Ricky Pearsall potentially missing the game. Who knows? Oh, Quentin Johnston's going against the Commanders. He should go crazy this week. And then Justin Jefferson might fall out of the top 5 for somebody else to come up. So we'll see what happens there. Bobby Wagner's number 2 in the NFL in tackles, followed Jordan Brooks is number 1. And then you have all these. You have another guy from Miami, Tyrell Dodson, at number 3. Quay Walker at 4. And Tremaine Edmonds at 5 for the Bears. Then leaders in sacks are Brian Burns for the Giants at 5, tied with Byron Young for the most sacks in the league so far. Carl Granderson at 3, Rashawn Gary at Rashawn Gray. I don't know why I say Gary. Is it Gary? Yeah, Gary. I don't know. Gary Gray. It's Gary. Rashawn Gary. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm tripping. It's late. Nick Benito at 5. Interceptions, you have Kevin Byard at 3 with the Bears. The Bears are definitely out here creating some turnovers this year. Devin Lloyd is tied with Kevin Byard at 1. And then you have Jordan Lewis at 3 for the Jags. And then you have Tremont Edmonds at 2. With 2 sacks at 4. So you have Edmonds and Byard out here creating turnovers. And, of course, you have Cam Bynum for the Indianapolis Colts. Pretty good defensive back that played for the Vikings for some years. So, that wraps up that portion of the show. Let's go ahead and get into these games. Just kind of wanted to kind of point out who's doing well and everything like that. So let's go ahead and get into these games. Give me 1 second. All right. So you got the Commanders versus the Falcons this week. Penix had a career high in every facet. And this is crazy that people struggle, but then against the Commanders, they go crazy. Penix had 313 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He looked like a vet. He looked like an amazing QB. They put no pressure on him. Bijan Robinson ran for 75 yards and a score. He also had a long reception where he was chased down by safety that just replaced Will Harris for the Commanders. Drake London had his best game of the season, 8 catches, 110, and 1 touchdown. It's like whoever plays the Commanders, doesn't matter who they are, they're going to have their best game yet. The Commanders' defense is terrible. They can't cover anybody. 34 points for this Atlanta Falcons team that didn't produce a score or a point this past week versus Carolina. Now comes home, plays Washington, and just destroys them. Washington did score 27 points, but 11 of that was in the fourth quarter. Like at that point, it was like garbage points, right? Just didn't matter. I didn't see the consistency for the Commanders. They didn't have no sense of urgency, especially in the first quarter. They looked terrible. Heading into the second half, bad clock management to where they couldn't even get up a field goal attempt, which is just crazy to me. So kicked a lot of field goals. They did score 2 touchdowns, but the offense for the Commanders looked awful. They did enough just to, keep things close, but the defense was the story of the whole thing. Washington's defense is terrible. The Vikings versus the Steelers. Steelers won this game 24-21. This was a game that came on before a lot of y'all woke up. It was an exciting game. DK Metcalf went crazy. You had Justin Jefferson going crazy with receptions. Metcalf had 5 receptions, 126 yards, and a score. Kenneth Gainwell ran the ball. He caught the ball. He had 19 carries for 99 yards and 2 scores. Carson Wentz, like I said, had 350 yards passing, two scores and 2 INTs. He tried to keep things together, especially in that fourth quarter. They started to make waves. Vikings struggled all the way until that fourth quarter, and they just couldn't make this happen. But shout out to the Steelers. They're 3-1 to start the year. Aaron Rodgers does enough every single game in order to kind of, keep this team relevant. He had 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Rodgers is just cool. He's just cool. He can sling that ball. He moves the ball around. I do believe the Pittsburgh Steelers need another wide receiver outside of DK Metcalf just to kind of make that offense flow a little bit better. They were able to get after Carson Wentz. They had 6 sacks. They was able to create some turnovers. Yeah, man, this Pittsburgh Steelers team, I don't know how good this team could be. It could be good or great. I don't know. Let's go ahead and move on to the Seattle Seahawks versus the Cardinals. This was an interesting game. Seattle won this game 23. As of late, 4 receptions for 79 yards. Arroyo definitely played well as a rookie. AJ Barner had that touchdown. Cooper Kupp, man, he hasn't had a game of over 35 yards receiving so far this season, but he does get a few clutch first downs here and there. But I don't know if this Cooper Kupp pickup has been the best thing for the Seahawks. It doesn't matter. They're 3-1, right? So who knows? They're playing solid defense when they need to. They get after the quarterback very well. 6 sacks this past week, and they were able to, do some things on the defensive end to kind of fluster guys like Kyler Murray, who had 2 picks. He threw for 200 yards. Marvin Harrison struggled early on, and then he started to, do some things better as the game went on. He has maybe his best game of the season, 6 receptions for 66 yards and a score. He did have 10 targets. He did have drops, but I think as the season goes on, his confidence is going to continue to rise. Kyler Murray did Kyler Murray things, but also I felt like he should have ran the ball a little bit more. Trey Benson was terrible in his debut, 8 carries for 35 yards. And he also had, 5 receptions for 19 yards. That's 3.8 yards per reception. Cedric Benson is pretty bad. Carter, what's good, man? Carter says, my guy, appreciate it picking Junkins over Kyron Williams. I told you, man, Junkins, I just have that feeling that he's like Nick Chubb 2.0. I think the best of Junkins is yet to come. He's going to be one of those guys that we're going to talk about like, wow, this guy outproduced Genty, or he outproduced this guy. Genty did go crazy this week. But, yeah. Junkins is going to be that guy. It's going to be that guy. Let me see. Yeah, so Seattle beating Arizona. We go ahead and get to the most surprising game of the weekend, and that's the Giants. That was the then before 0-3 Giants going against the 3-0 Chargers. The Giants beat the Chargers 21-18. And this was a game where the Chargers had chances in the fourth quarter, and they just could not get it done. Justin Herbert was flustered, 203 yards passing, 1 score, 2 INTs. Omarion Hampton did play well, 12 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. But why do you stop going to Omarion Hampton? Dude had 12 carries for 128 yards. He's averaging 10.7 yards per carry. You got to continue to go to him. So they ran the ball well. They didn't pass the ball well, but then they go away from the running game. It's crazy. Quentin Johnson got targeted 13 times. He caught 8 receptions for 98 yards and a score. This is a guy that's going to be going against the Commanders, man. He is going to tear the Commanders up potentially. Where is Ladd McConkey this season? Where's Ladd McConkey this season? Targeted 6 times, 1 reception for 11 yards. It's unacceptable for a guy that had all of this hype coming into the season. Carter writes, think Fields or May this week. If you want upside, you go Fields. If you want a for sure thing, you go Mayfield. Give me Mayfield. Carter also writes Sutton or Debo. That's tough. Give me Sutton. Sutton's role is more defined than Debo's. At least you know with Sutton, he's their number one wide receiver. He's going to get targets. With Debo, you don't know how he's going to be used. Because he's played special teams, a lot of times he comes off of the field and he's breathing. He's tired because he has to return kickoffs for the Commander. So if I had to choose, give me Sutton. And that Chargers defense is going to be tough this week. Yeah, give me Sutton. He's more the kind of receiver that I would look for opposed to Debo. Debo's doing great though this season. So yeah, Darius Slayton stepped up to lead the Giants this week. That's why I have him as my number one waiver wire pickup receiver-wise to take over for Malik Neighbors. So there is that rapport between Jackson Dart and Darius Slayton, and he was able to see that. So yeah, it wasn't really much to say about the Giants offense. It was very vanilla. 25 carries to Cam Scatterbo for 79 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. Yeah, they was going to go to Scatterbo, and then they tried to pass the ball. They did the best they could. He was efficient. Jackson Dart was efficient. He was sacked 5 times. So that's why I say defenses will get after this rookie. I don't know how well he plays in their next matchup, but for them to beat the Chargers, that was a huge, huge win. Giants being at home, it was just things was just buzzing out there in New York, and New York was able to get this thing done. And they was able to win this game with only sacking Justin Herbert twice. It's 2 sacks. So if you watch the game, you'll kind of see the kind of defense that the Giants were able to play, and they played well. So we have this game right here, the Titans and the Houston Texans. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. This one is going to be real quick, super quick. Cam Ward didn't look good at all. Threw the ball 26 times, completed 10. 1 INT. Pollard was ineffective. Well, he was somewhat effective, 14 for 64. Alec Ironmanner, 2 receptions for 44, 7 targets. He's clearly their number one receiver. It's no longer Calvin Ridley. So, yeah, it's just, enough on the Titans. With the Texans, C.J. Stroud, 233 yards passing, two scores. Like I talked about Woody Marks earlier. Woody Marks went crazy. He seems to be the guy that they're going to be leaning on more. Even if it's not a Woody Marks backfield by himself, he's going to be the guy that's going to get maybe 60, and then Nick Chubb gets 40. Nico Collins was solid, 7 receptions for 79 yards. Woody Marks, again, was just great, receiving the ball, 4 for 50. And overall, the Texans' defense were solid. Yeah, they didn't create like a bunch of turnovers or a bunch of sacks. They just kept the Titans from not doing anything. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't even hit field goals. So not much to say about that game. All right, moving on to the next game, you have the Buffalo Bills versus the New Orleans Saints. I don't know how long they're going to keep Spencer Rattler in at QB. 27 passes, 18 completions, 126 yards. Taysom Hill is back. So you can look for Taysom Hill to take some of those QB snaps. They gave a QB snap to or a pass attempt to Chris Olave, and he threw an interception. So, yeah, it's getting that bad. Kamara, 15 carries for 70 yards. My prediction is that Alvin Kamara gets traded at the trade deadline or sooner. He does not make it to the end of the season as a New Orleans Saint. Kendra Miller had his best game of the season, 11 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. Outside of that, they really had nothing going for them offensively in terms of the passing game. Juwan Johnson, that's been solid all year, only got 3 targets this weekend. He caught all 3. So, yeah, enough about that game. Josh Allen things. 209 passing, 2 scores. James Cook has just been phenomenal this season. 22 carries, 117 yards and a score. Khalil Shakur, he's been like the number one wide receiver for that team. Kincaid continues to be solid. So Kincaid came out of nowhere just to be productive this season. And I know you guys have been looking for him in fantasy the previous years. One of the better games of the week was the Eagles coming in at 3-0, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming in at 3-0, and these two teams, go head to head. And at the end, towards the end, you start to see Tampa Bay start to make this thing a game coming in that third quarter and that fourth quarter. Jalen Hurts, another game of 130 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns. He ran the ball 9 times for 62. I don't know what's wrong with Saquon. 19 carries for 43 yards. I don't know, but he did get a touchdown. Saquon is not, he hasn't been Saquon this year. I don't know what's going on. Dallas Goedert caught both touchdowns. The Eagles are just finding ways to win. Even when their stats look crazy, they're finding ways to win. There's rumors about A.J. Brown is pissed off and he might leave. A.J. Brown, you have nobody to blame. You had 9 targets. You caught 2 for 7 yards. You had 9 targets and you caught 2 receptions for 7 yards. You can't blame nobody but yourself. You know, the next person that had the most targets was between Saquon and Dallas Goedert, who had 4 apiece. So you're getting targets. You just have to start to maximize those targets. Speaking of Tampa Bay, this offense looks pretty good. Baker Mayfield, 289 yards passing, 2 scores, 1 INT. Bucky Irvin, 15 carries for 63 yards, but he did the bulk of his work in the passing game where he had 5 receptions for 102 yards receiving and a score. Bucky Irvin was special. He was electric this past week. I hope that he's not injured, and I hope that he's back again this week. Mecca Ebuka had 4 receptions for 101 yards and a score. This guy, he might be the favorite right now for Rookie of the Year. Like, he looks good. He looks amazing. Keep an eye out on Rashad White, like I said, on the waiver wire portion of the show. He could be a guy that's targeted heavily in waiver wires, especially if Bucky Irvin is indeed out for week 5. Moving along, you have the Lions, and then you have the lowly Cleveland Browns. This game was close. This game was close up until mid-second quarter somewhere, and then decided to break away. Like, these guys were trying their best, keeping up with them, and in the fourth quarter, obviously, the Lions just kind of broke out. Joe Flacco played horrible. 2 INTs. Jenkins has just been solid. 21 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. And I'm sure he did some work in the receiving game where he had 4 receptions for 33 yards. Isaiah Bond looked good. I'm not saying, but I'm saying he could be the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver on that team. So you might have Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond. And who knows? Dylan Gabriel might come in, like I said in the waiver wire show, and have good rapport with Isaiah Bond. So he could be their maybe most productive guy while Jerry Jeudy is going against some of the top corners in the league. But yeah, the Lions just blew these guys out 34-10. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 7 receptions for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's just the Amon-Ra St. Brown type things. Gibbs was solid for 15 carries for 91 yards and a score. Jared Goff had 2 touchdowns, although he didn't have a lot of passing yards. He did what he had to do, and they were effective. Shout out to the Cleveland Browns line. They were able to limit the sacks from these guys. And, yeah, that's that. So I got my guy Eli with me. This is my baby boy. So he's going to do the rest of the show with me as long as you behave yourself. You hear me? Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to do the rest of this show together. All right. So moving on to the next game, we talked about the Titans. We talked about the Bills game. We talked about the Philadelphia game. Let's go ahead and get to the Carolina Panthers. You were thinking the Panthers were going to come in and play well after beating the Atlanta Falcons, but no. Bryce Young, 30 pass attempts for 150 yards and a score. Chuba Hubbard, 10 carries for 40 yards. The offense, just the defense, everything you can talk about the Panthers was just bad. New England playing at home. Drake May was in his bag. 203 yards passing, only missed 3 incompletions, had 2 touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson had led the way with 9 carries for 38 yards. Trevion Henderson did score. Antonio Gibson did score. Drake May did. They were able to run the ball at will. They had 3 rushing scores. Stephon Diggs had his best game of the season, 6 receptions for 101 yards. He should have had a score. Hunter Henry is just on fire right now with being the safety valve for Drake May. So not much to say about that game other than a beatdown of 42-13. And I believe that they returned a kickoff, maybe. I can't remember.
I need to go, Daddy.
No, stay. Stay. All right. So moving on along, let's see who's next on this list. So we talked about the Panthers game, talked about the Giants game, talked about the Eagles game, talked about the Titans game, the Colts and the Rams. That was a good game. That was a game that could have gone either way. I honestly thought that the Colts were going to win this game. Daniel Jones, he had a couple turnovers that he shouldn't have had, but it happened. And then that's the end of that. Adonai Mitchell had the ball crossing the goal line, and he just fumbles. Those are things that you cannot do. Michael Pittman had 5 receptions for 41 yards to lead the way with a score as well. Tyler Warren has been solid all year, 5 receptions for 70 yards. Matthew Stafford had the best game of the season so far, where he threw 375 yards and 3 passing TDs. Kyron Williams, 13 carries for 77 yards. Puka, 13 receptions for 170 yards and a score. Tutu Atwell had that long 88-yard touchdown to clinch the game. That was GG's. That was game over. Shout out to Devontae Adams for being one of those solid vets that just continue to do solid things. Big win for the Rams. Are the Rams Super Bowl contenders this year? Time will tell. Let's look at the Jaguars and the 49ers. This is a good game. 2 teams fighting to, advance in their divisions and all that stuff. Trevor Lawrence was solid. 174 yards passing and a score. He wasn't great, but he was solid. ETN was the guy. 19 carries for 124 yards in the score. So ETN looked pretty good. Y'all give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. So yeah, Brock Purdy, decent game, 309 passing, 2 TDs, 2 INTs. Christian McCaffrey didn't do much running the ball, 17 for 49, but he did catch a lot of passes, 6 receptions for 92 yards and a score. And then, of course, Jake Tongs, we already talked him up in the Waiver Wire show. He played a good game, but with all these pass catchers being hurt, I don't know what they do. Jacksonville just knows how to take away the ball. Purdy was intercepted twice. When it comes to the receiver work between Travis Hunter, Brenton Strange, and Brian Thomas Jr., they make it work. They figure it out. They make it happen. And that's where we are. So, yeah, Jacksonville is 3-1. That's a big surprise for me this week. I didn't think that the Jacksonville Jaguar team was going to be this good or this productive so far early on in the season. And they have been. Being in a weak division with the Titans and the Texans, somebody has to rise up there. One of the biggest beatdowns this week is that Ravens and Chiefs game. You have Lamar Jackson, who got hurt. Cooper Rush comes in, but even when he played, he wasn't effective. They did a lot of things that were okay in garbage time, but the Chiefs dominated this game. Patrick Mahomes, 270 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy got involved running the ball. The run game seems to be a concern, but if you look at everything, they were solid in the passing game. Xavier Worthy, 5 receptions for 83 yards. Travis Kelce, 5 for 48. Hollywood Brown, 3 for 38 in the score. Juju Smith-Schuster, 4 for 36 in the score. They just looked solid. Taquan Thornton, all these different things, all these different guys produced well and produced at a high level. Baltimore Ravens being 1-3 was something that nobody bet on this year. So it's just crazy to see Baltimore struggle, but then you also see the Kansas City Chiefs starting to kind of get their stride and starting to kind of get things together. The more healthy that their receivers become, the more dangerous this team is going to be as the season goes on. Let's go ahead and dive into the last few games of this week. We do have the Bears going against the Raiders. And the Bears won this game 25-24. It was a competitive game. This game kind of went back and forth. Ashton Jeanty had his best game of the season, 21 carries for 138 yards and a rushing score. But then also, Ashton Jeanty had 2 receptions for 17 yards and 2 additional scores. So Jeanty had his best game of the season. Brock Bowers hasn't really hit his stride yet. Geno Smith played okay, 117 yards passing total. But it was good to see Jeanty come out and play well. He had a near perfect game. Only thing he did wrong was having that fumble. Other than that, he looked great. Roma Dunze continues to lead his team in reception and yards and touchdowns. He had another touchdown, 4 receptions, 69 yards and a score. And Caleb Williams, for the most part, has played exceptional football so far this season. 212 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Cole Kmet was solid. And, they just pitched in. But defensively, this team looks good from time to time. They was able to get 3 interceptions this week. Geno Smith knows how to throw touchdowns, but he knows how to throw INTs. And the Bears so far this season have been very they've been pretty solid. They've been very good in certain games. Vegas could be one of those teams that's trying to get the top pick this year. As much talent as they have, they're not that good. One of the most exciting games of the week was the Packers and the Cowboys. I was at the Kev on Stage show here in Nashville. He showed up, so I had to go see Kev on Stage and Tony. Can't even think of his last name. Tony Baker. Tony Baker, the Bald Brothers improv show. It was great. So leaving the show, going to pick up my kids, and then heading back home, I was hoping that this game went to overtime. When I got home, overtime just started, right? And I was hoping that these two teams ended up in a tie, being that the Green Bay Packers beat my Commanders in week 2, and being that I just don't like the Cowboys. They're just the enemy, right? So this game was going back and forth. Jordan Love had 337 yards passing, had 3 touchdowns, all to Romeo Doubs, right? Who had 6 receptions for 58 and 3 scores. Josh Jacobs was solid, 22 carries for 86 yards and 2 scores. It was just a game going back and forth, right? But the biggest story of the night was Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott looks good. He was unfazed by Micah Parsons. The only time that Micah Parsons actually did something was when Dak was trying to score a touchdown and Micah came and got him at the end, saving the game, because that could have been a touchdown and that would have been game over. But they ended up kicking a field goal. But even prior to that, Dak Prescott was running and he threw a fadeaway pass to Jalen Tolbert, who came back to the ball and caught it and put them in that scoring position. Javonte Williams has been great all season. He had 20 carries for 85 yards and a score. But back to Dak Prescott being efficient, 31 for 40, 319 yards passing and 3 passing scores. George Pickens, man, he is looking like some acquisition by the Dallas Cowboys right now. Targeted 11 times, 8 receptions for 134 yards receiving. Unbelievable. Carter writes, pick 4, Amon-Ra, Emeka, Nico, Debo, Wandale, Waddle, Worthy. All right, of course, give me Amon-Ra and Emeka. Nico, that's 3. Give me Sutton, because I don't trust Wandale. I don't trust Waddle. Worthy might be a pick, but give me – no, you know what? Scratch Sutton, give me Worthy. So give me Amon-Ra, Emeka, Nico, and Worthy. Those are my 4. But yeah, that Packers-Cowboys game is unbelievable. Went back and forth. It gives you everything you want in a football game. And yeah, George Pickens, man, he looked great. He looked amazing. Jalen Tolbert pitched in. Jake Ferguson continues to just gobble up targets. He looked solid. Kavontae Turpin. that could be somebody who starts to get a few more plays offensively. He caught most of his targets, so that was the best game of the week. And I'm gonna do a combination of the two games. I'm not even gonna just dive into it. The Broncos just beat down the Bengals last night. Bengals is just done. Their season is done. Everybody went off. J.K. Dobbins went off. Bo Nix went off. Cortland Sutton went off, and they beat down the Bengals 28-3. And then the other game that it was okay. Wasn't much of a game. Jets tried to make it a game in the fourth quarter, but to no avail. Fields was solid. Passed for a touchdown, but also ran for a touchdown. The chain did a chain things, 20 carries for 99 yards and a score. Garrett Wilson is still one of the best QBs in the league. It's just that he plays for the Jets. Two bad teams. Jets are 0-4. Dolphins are 1-3. That's that. It wasn't much to really say. They gave us two crappy games on a Monday night. This concludes the Waiver Wire show, and also this concludes the NFL show as well. Carter writes, let me see what Carter writes. He says, and Quinshawn, go Junkins. Go Junkins he's a must start every week. Junkins is no longer a question. It's like a no-brainer. You got to go Junkins every week. Carter writes, 2 flex, Kyron, Chuba Hubbard, Emeka, and Sutton. Give me Emeka always. And man, Kyron has been going down. Chuba Hubbard looks awful in that awful offense. Give me Emeka and Sutton. Yeah, the options there aren't really optioning. So, yeah, give me Emeka and Sutton. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all watching the show. If you're watching the replay, please like, please subscribe, please share. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Catch you guys on that next show. If Carter doesn't stop asking me questions, you already asked me this question. I already answered it, but I'm going to answer it again. Give me Baker Mayfield over Justin Fields. Nah, I'm playing. Give me Baker Mayfield over Justin Fields. I'm out. Peace.